Jesus. Thank you, Lord. You're frozen.
Really?
Oh, you're freezing you're moving. You're moving now in slow motion though.
That's so weird. Am I good now?
You're sticking and stopping and sticking and stopping.
That's weird because you're good and I'm hearing me clearly. I'm moving on my screen clearly.
Okay, so maybe it's my screen. The good thing is that we are live now. After many attempts, we are we're alive. Not alive, we're alive. But
I'm gonna
welcome. Oh yes, yes, please. I think I should do the same thing. 1 second. Hello? Can you hear me, Ruth? Ruth, you're frozen on the screen. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I can. Can you hear me? Say yes.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
I was always
I
able
was
to
always
hear
able
you.
to hear you. Hi, Launcher.
Hello, Launcher.
Hello, Launcher.
Why am I
Why am I
echoing?
echoing? I don't know.
Are you echoing
Are
for
you
you?
echoing for you? No, I'm not.
Okay, I don't know what's
Okay, I don't know
happening.
what's happening.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
this is the
this is the
first
first
episode
episode
of Tissue
of
Tea
Tissue
and
Tea and
Testimony.
Testimony.
Ruth, are you with the
Ruth, are
bad
you with the
audio
bad
again?
audio again? But that's so weird. Like it's moving smooth. Like I'm the only person on the Wi-Fi right now.
I don't
I'm
know what's
I don't know
happening.
what's literally happening. Right beside the Wi-Fi.
I don't know.
I don't
We'll
know.
we'll make it work.
We'll make it work. That's
So I
crazy.
guess you'll
So I
have to
guess you have
stop
to
your thing
stop
while
your
I
thing while
talk.
I talk. But that's ridiculous. No sound.
Hello,
Hello,
Kieran.
Kieran.
Mute your thing and
Mute
let
your
me
thing
hear
and let
Ruth.
me hear that.
Hello and welcome. Are you on your bad audio for true? Do you have earphones, Ruth? You have to turn off. You have to turn it back on. By the way, I am a girl. Happy to know. Thank you for that clarification, Kieran. Ruth, you have to turn on your thing so we can hear you talk.
But you guys not hearing me anyway, so.
No, we are
No,
hearing
we
you.
are
It's just
hearing
that
you. It's
when
just
your
that
thing
when
is
your
on,
thing is
my thing
on,
is
my thing is
echoing.
echoing. That's so weird to me. Hold on.
Do you have
Do you
earphones
have
close by?
earphones close by? Yeah, I'm trying to see what works.
Okay.
These days okay. I don't know what goes into what hole, if there's any hole for anything now.
It will fit
It
if
will
it's
fit
supposed
if it's
to.
supposed to. I don't think it fits into my phone.
Thank you
Thank
everyone
you
who's
everyone who's
joined.
joined.
We're just
We're
waiting to
just
get
waiting to get
started.
started.
We have some
We have some
technical
technical.
difficulties, but we're working through them. So please stay with us. It's low to on routes and we're just working through it. But thank you for joining. This is Tissue Tea and Testimony. So I have a weekly podcast. Typically, the episodes are recorded, edited, and then posted. But this week, I'm trying to test it out to see what it will look like if we just do the episodes live on a Thursday evening and then just, continue on our way. So, to test out the live episode, I have my very best friend with me, Ruth, who is trying to figure out things on her side now. And we're going to be having a really awesome conversation. The other day, somebody said to me that I say awesome a lot, and it is true. But we're going to have an awesome conversation today. We're going to be talking about sitting pretty during the test, right? And the premise of it is that sometimes when we're going through a test, the only thing that keeps us is knowing that God brought us through a previous test, and there's some consistency about him that we're trusting to take us through this particular situation. And so that's where we're going to be based today. A lot of other things will come out. To start the episode, we are going to do what we have. I have tea tag or spill the tea. Ruth, as my guest, will get to choose which one she wants. I'll ask her a couple questions, and then we'll answer those. We have our tea time, Mary. We have our tea time, so we're going to be sharing tea, why we chose the tea we chose, and what we're drinking. And so that's what the episode is going to be. Oh, and we have our tissue worthy moment closer to the end where I ask Ruth a question. And if, depending on what is said, then it can become like usually that's where I get the highlight clips from to promote the episode. So we have a good lineup today. So I ask that you just stick and stay with us for a little while longer while Ruth sorts this out. Maybe I should play some music. Oh, she's here.
The headphones, it's Bluetooth, but it's not connecting.
Turn up your phone. Turn up your something.
Turn up what? There's nothing more to turn up.
Your volume.
The only way to turn it up is to speak louder.
Okay, that we can do that. So maybe what you just do is when I'm talking, j- just mute your thing and then come in.
Boy, today
Jesus.
is a rough day, Jesus. Why is this all zoomed in? I don't even know. It's crazy. I don't know. My God.
I I saw your bone marrow a while ago. Blood in the back of your head.
Jesus. It rough, man. Oh my
That's okay.
God.
RR13. If you find the lineup boring, you don't have to stick around. You can find something more exciting to do with your evening. Um,
Are we good now? Because it seems as if we're
yes,
good
Ruth,
now.
you're good.
All right, let's start.
Awesome. So, welcome. Mute your thing. Mute your thing. Sorry, well, if I work. Welcome everyone to Tissue Tea and Testimony. It's a podcast. We're going live today. My name is Camellia Guthrie, and with me is the one and only, the incomparable Ruth Ann Carr. And she's my guest for today. But before we get started, we're going to do what I call my tea time. And so we're going to talk about what tea we're drinking and why we chose that particular tea. And then we're going to go into our introduction. And then we're going to do our spill the tea or tea tag. She gets to choose. And then we'll just continue with the conversation. So, as my guest, you get to tell me what tea you're drinking first.
Okay, so I'm actually having a super blend of
Ooh,
green tea, mandarin, and apple.
why did you choose that?
I chose it because it was the only thing I saw when I was rushing to get some tea. Initially, I wanted to have green tea and matcha, but in the rush to get everything done, that's the one I grabbed.
We need to have a matcha conversation because I think a lot of this is my opinion, right? I think a lot of people who drink matcha only drink it because matcha is trending. That thing tastes like chalk dust, but that's for another conversation.
It can be this conversation. It tastes like grass, but some also
Okay, so I
like
guess
grass.
people like things that taste like grass. In my cup, I have mango dragon fruit. So that's my tea. Oh, I can stop steeping it now. So my tea of choice today is mango dragon fruit, and I chose it because it is one of my favorite teas. Uh, and so I decided I was going to just zhuzh it up. Usually I'm drinking fennel. I drink a lot of fennel. And for those of us who don't know what fennel is, it's called anise, or the plant is called anise in some places. But it's the seeds. It's good for nausea. It's good for bloating. And I'm typically bloated or nauseous. So I drink a lot of fennel. But today I'm drinking mango dragon fruit. So at this moment, now that we've gotten our tea time out of the way, Ruth, I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience.
I think this is one of the hardest questions ever posed. Who are you? Because sometimes we're trying to figure out who we are, and that's right where I am. But for now, I'm Ruth. My name means compassion. I think I'm very compassionate until I'm not. Okay? I'm thoughtful. I'm kind. I love my friends. I love my own company. A lot. And last night I was playing a game with a friend of mine, and there was a question about, where do you see yourself in the next couple of years? What do you want? And for me, my goal is always to impact people's lives positively. So, in a nutshell, that's who I am. Energetic, kind, but I'm also the opposite of that.
Awesome.
Awesome.
In a
In a
nutshell.
nutshell. In a
Oops.
nutshell.
All right.
All right.
So for
So
our
for our
tea time, well, you get to choose. Are you wanting to do tea tag or do you want to do spill the tea?
whichever one you choose, because I can't recall which is which.
Okay. I'm going to do, how about we do tea tag? I just have some random questions here, thanks to ChatGPT. Um, if you were a tea flavor, what would you be and why?
Mint, because it settles the stomach, it's good for you, and even if you're not drinking it, it's gonna smell great.
Short and to the point. What's the most petty thing you've ever done that you're still proud of?
I can't think of anything specific right now. Can you think of anything specific that I've done that's petty?
I don't know if you're
I
still
don't know if
proud
you're
of
still
it.
proud of it. Tell me what it is. Maybe I am.
You remember
You remember?
and say it
And
loud.
say it loud.
You're,
I know I have petty moments, but for the weirdest reason you asking no, I can't remember. And I feel like I'm shouting because Launtia says that she's struggling to hear. And so I'm really, really raising my voice.
I don't know
I
if
don't
you
know if
remember.
you remember.
Mute your thing,
Mute your
please.
thing, please.
I don't know if you remember this time we went to St. Thomas for a church service and you had just freshly pressed your hair. And I don't remember what happened to it. And it started,
Girl, let me tell you what happened to it, okay? So we had a bigger friend group, right? We still get along with these people, but we're not as close. So we had the twins, we had you, we had Danny, and I think we also had, oh my, Kim. Did Kim come? I can't
I
recall.
think
So
so.
we had this, so. We had this trip planned, and for most of my life, like I keep going natural, then perm, then natural. But then I decided to press my hair out. Got it pressed. It was nice and awesome. Then the twins them both say, "Oh, let me fix it," and they're going to curl it in the night and whatever. And they sprayed spritz in my freshly pressed hair. Now, both all of us were novices. Nobody knew that. Hey, you shouldn't get it wet like that anymore. So when I got to the church in St. Thomas in my cute peach dress and my black jacket, I realized my hair was just poofy and all over the place. And apparently, I ruined everybody's day, and I am not ashamed, and I feel good about it.
You're not supposed
You're
to
not
feel good
supposed to
about
feel
it.
good about
She
it.
decided
She decided she was.
she wasn't going to
She
go into
wasn't.
the muted thing. She wasn't going to go into church to have service. Cam, can you use headphones for the echo? I can try. She decided she wasn't going to go into church for the service. She was supposed to participate, and so now everybody's out there in a frenzy. And she was just adamant that she was. I was so mad that day. I was so mad
I was
that
so
day.
mad that day.
I'm going to get
I'm
my
going to get my
headset.
headset. Listen. You guys could have salvaged whatever. My thing is, I was dealing with my own issue and how I felt in the moment, and I still will not apologize for it because it is what it is. It was what it was, and yeah.
What we
I
gonna
don't
do?
know if that's petty. I can think of other things that are possibly petty, but we'll move.
Okay, I'm gonna go get my headset. But while I go get my headset, the next question is: if healing had a song, had a sound or a song, what would yours be? So think about that. You can start answering while I go fetch my headset.
I hope you're able to hear. If healing had a sound, it would be the sound of raindrops on a zinc roof. If you are from rural Jamaica or I don't know, the Caribbean where we have zinc roofs and where we have our rainy seasons, you will be able to relate. When you hear that pit pit patter on the top of your roof, it really calms me. It really just makes me feel at peace. And a thunderstorm. I love a thunderstorm. So you're here the rain and then the breeze is dancing through the leaves and you're hearing whoosh 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 and then the pit pit patter and then you hear like the lightning and thunder. Oh my god, I love a lightning storm, honestly. So that for me, That's healing, that's peaceful. And even when I have issues sleeping, I hardly do, I will look for thunderstorms on the internet and just listen to them, and I'm gone, I'm out, like, completely.
I don't know about me, but when I saw this,
Okay, great, I can hear you now. Go ahead, I wasn't hearing you when you just started.
are you hearing me?
Your AirPods are delayed. Nothing, can't hear you. No. But even just taking it out your ear, you probably would have to put it in the case itself so it disconnects one completely.
That is true. I can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, so I was saying, I know this is not about me, but when I saw the question, the only thing that came to mind for me, if healing had a sound or a song, it would be Hilango Lira Hido Hilango
And when you bend down low,
Hilango.
hey.
All right, thank you for doing tea time with us, Ruth. So now we're going to be moving on to your testimony. And we kind of discussed what we're going to talk about, but I give you the opportunity to launch us into the topic.
Okay. Many times when, for me, when we talk about testimonies and great things that happen, I think that many times we need it to be big for it to be a testimony, or for it to be miraculous, or for it to bring about great change. When really it's usually in the small details. And many times
Mhm.
I'll run for the big things that happened back in the day and not realize what's happening now. So I recently purchased a car. Woo-woo. It was a new dream. Never always
Mhm.
wanted one, but then I decided I needed one, and it was important, so I got one. And my brain is telling many stories at one time. So that is great. I celebrated that. I got the car for the first time. I drove alone for so long as well. I drove all the way home to my mother's yard. In past several boundaries as it relates to parishes just to get to
Mhm.
her, so she could pray for the car. Cam would have prayed for it when I just picked it up anyway. So fast forward a couple months later, and I decided to take some time from work just to literally relax and then maybe do some road, have some fun. Sorry for the bike that's out there. And the Saturday before my leave would start on the Monday, I had a little accident with a guy.
Mhm.
I never hit a car. A car didn't hit me. And mark you, I'm on the road in Kingston with crazy bus drivers and taxi drivers that you have to maneuver your way every single day and be like, did these people borrow their license? So I was right at my gate that I maneuver every single day, several times for the day, and out of the blue, boom, back it up, bumper tear, rav, light jump out.
What is happening?
I'm like, but God, you're not normal though. You're not easy. What is this? But interestingly, there was frustration, I have to admit, and I didn't want it to happen. I'm not gonna say I celebrated like, Lord, yeah, me girl, lick up. Thank you, Jesus. Hell no. That
Mhm.
was not how I felt. But there was this deep peace, this deep calm, and I still feel I'm so grateful. So I'm usually the person like, all right, so what now? How we gonna fix it? So I drove straight to my dealership, spoke to them, decided to bring it back a little later, decided how we're gonna make the payments and all of that. And everything has just worked out so smoothly. And I've stayed home, literally stayed home for the entire 2 weeks. I went out once with my friend and I went to the market in downtown Kingston. And Camille and I were talking, and it's these things that don't seem like miracles, that don't seem like things we should be grateful for, that we should. Because I don't know why that needed to happen for me to stay home for 2 weeks. It don't make no
Mhm.
sense to me. But it could be worse. Like I could be on the road, it could be an issue with somebody else. I know people who they just drive out the first day to get the car and that is it. I don't know what could have happened. And for me, my testimony in this moment is just the gratitude in the not knowing. And that sounds so weird because I've seen things that never happened because of grace,
Mhm.
because of mercy. And this time around, I'm not sure what I was spared.
Mm.
Like in my soul, I feel as though I was spared something. So even though this seems awful and hard, In my mind, it's kind of means to an end, and it's fine, it's okay, because whatever lessons I needed to learn, I think I've learned them, and the best place to learn them is on your own, in your own front yard, with people, surrounded by people who you love.
That's
That's
thank you for sharing
thank you
that.
for sharing that.
But that's an
But that's an
interesting
interesting
perspective to
perspective to
from which to look
from
at
which
it,
to look at it,
because
because
in the
in the
mystery of
mystery of
things, I think
things,
is where a
I
lot of
think
us
is where a
get
lot of us
lost,
get lost,
right?
right?
When
When
things are not
things are not
making
making
sense, they're
sense,
just
they're just
randomly
randomly
happening,
happening,
and you don't know
and you
how
don't
they
know
play
how
out
they
in the
play out in the
larger scale.
larger scale.
And so the
And
fact
so
that
the
you are
fact
able
that
to
you
say,
are
you know
able to
what,
say, you know what,
nothing
nothing
happens by
happens by
accident. By
accident, by
accident. Well, this
accident. Well,
happened by
this happened by
accident.
accident,
But nothing
but
happens
nothing
by
happens by
accident. Everything
accident.
is part of
Everything
a
is
bigger
part of a
plan.
bigger plan.
It's
It's
and you're in
and
that you're
in
able to
that
be
you're able to be
grateful.
grateful.
It's a good
It's a
place to
good
find
place to
yourself
find
in,
yourself in,
because it's not an
because it's
easy
not
place
an
to
easy
get
place
to.
to get to.
Because I know
Because I
sometimes
know
we say we
sometimes we
trust
say we
God,
trust
but
God,
we trust
but
God
we
when
trust
things are
God when
working
things are
out how
working
we
out how
want them
we
to
want
work
them to
out.
work out.
The echo is still
The
there.
echo is
Mute
still
when
there.
not
Mute when not.
speaking. Sorry, Launcher. And so when we want it, when the things are working how we want it, yeah, trust God. God and I are good. But the moment things are not going the way we want them to, that trust is now called up for questioning. And a lot of times I can't answer. And so the fact that you're able to find that in this is beautiful. Did this happen overnight? A couple of years ago or so, would this have been the same perspective that you'd have taken?
I'm not sure. I think for the most part, I'm always, and it's a good thing, and sometimes maybe a bad thing. You will say too, because I think there's something called over flexibility. I'm a
Mhm.
flexible person. Something doesn't work, and I'm like, okay, how do we pivot? How do we move on? And so sometimes I do move on from things that I should have stayed on. I should have worked on a little bit harder. But I think for the most part, even as a child, I was always like, all right, so what next? Because growing up, in an extended family, and you weren't wealthy and all of that, eventually you realize that yes, you had to feel the feels, but you couldn't stay there. It would not serve you. So you could not stay there. And whether it's faith in people around you, faith in yourself, faith in God, you eventually learn that you just have to believe that there's a higher power and move towards something different. So it might have not been that strong, but I believe it was always there. Because if we were recount some stories in my life growing up, from even when I was in primary school, getting ready to do exams and not having money and behaving like an adult and going to borrow $50 so I could pay for exam and stuff. Why am I crazy? Why am I doing those things? However, all of those have added up to the point now where even when the unfortunate things happen, I'm like, all right, we can get through this. I don't like it. I hate it here, but I can't stay here, and I know I'm gonna get through it. And it's always going to add up to something else. So whatever lesson I learned here that I don't even know how I'm gonna apply somewhere else, when it happens, I'm gonna be like, yeah,
Mhm.
that is it. That is it right there.
I think this
I think
plays
this
into
plays into
mute again,
mute
please.
again, please.
I think this plays into the whole idea that faith is a muscle that must be exercised. Yeah. And so if it's just there dormant, just sitting down, then what's going to happen? But every time, and that's really good, every time something happens, you get a little stronger, you get a little more faithful, like, oh, God's got me. Because one of the, I don't know if there's probably a few people, but Ruth is one of the most positive, faithful people I know in terms of, like, I know sometimes I'll say to her, I'm praying for this, I ask God for this, and then a couple of weeks later I'll be saying something else, and she's like, you believe or you don't believe? Do you believe what you're asking for or not? Because you already asked God for it. Why are you coming? She's like, prepare yourself for it. And sometimes for me, when Ruth, I feel like Ruth is just has just this blind faith that just doesn't make any sense to me sometimes, because she says it and but I think it comes from having practiced, having had that muscle stretched and exercised and built up. I was also thinking of you mentioned that, growing up, you just had to move on and stuff. You were not able to sit in the field. Just this week, I found myself just bawling because I'm like, I don't know why I sit in my field so much. And so I don't know if that has anything to do with how I show up in terms of faith. I trust God. I know that. But there are times when I want what I want, and what you're doing doesn't make any sense to me. But then when you look back, like when I look back at my life now, I'm like, I could not have thought of it. Nothing I asked for would have been this good. And so I'm trusting that the same God who brought me here is going to bring me further.
Yeah, and something to add here, Cam, cause there's something called over. Just I am saying over flexibility, over positivity as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to point out as well that it's important. I would have mentioned to feel the feels and all of that. So when I'm talking like this, and I don't want anyone to go away with that misunderstanding that because I normally speak positivity over people's lives, over my life, it does not mean that I don't go through my valley of darkness. It doesn't mean that I don't feel lost. It doesn't mean that sometimes I don't linger because I believe it's gonna change. But in the moment, I'm feeling so emotional. I'm feeling so despondent because even this week, the 2 weeks off, and I had plans, man. I had things that I wanted, and I feel like none of them happened. Nothing worked out the way I wanted them to work out. And so for a moment, and so for several moments that would come on and off, I feel like, yo, what am I doing with my life? What is this? Because I know this me want, and why that not happen. And I know that I struggle. And so because I'm always so open and maybe faithful, I struggle with being in the moment. So to have something, sometimes you give up something else. So sometimes I do struggle. For example, for those of you who, well, Launcher and Cam would have known that, I've been interested in doing psychology. Yes. Um, I didn't do it. My first degree was in communication. I do not regret it. One of the best decisions of my life.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I've tried, to get into programs, and they're like, oh, but you need a first degree or some kind of training in psychology or whatever. And then recently, I learned about a particular scholarship, and I applied. I got a 70% scholarship to do psychology, do a master's. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And one day, that's before today when we actually make payments, so it's real, real now. When the offer was made, and I realized that I was just treating it like just another day, just another day. And I had to remind myself that, listen, you have to find time for the present as well, Ruthann. So even in my head, I live a lot in the future, which is why I'm probably so positive because I'm like, yo, the future is bright. But it means that at times I miss out on the awesome present. So I miss out on the things I prayed for. I prayed and I hoped and I wished and I worked, hopefully to get into this field. And now that the doors have opened, it's not celebratory. I'm not jumping, and I'm not feeling joyous, and I have to sit with myself with that as well. So sometimes when we talk about the miracles, sometimes it's easy to look ahead into the future and see what can be and look in the
Mm-hmm.
past at what has been, but we forget about the moment that we're in right now and to just bask in it and just to be grateful in these moments. So I'm slowing myself down and really trying to be grateful for things that I've prayed and worked for.
That's awesome.
That's
And you
awesome. And you
absolutely should.
absolutely should.
Because you don't
Because
put
you
your
know,
time, effort, and all these things into it. But we were reading a book in my book club some time ago. I don't remember. It's called like something another minutes or hours, how many hours we have. And it was basically saying, based on our society, we're so dopamine driven that we spend our whole lives just chasing the next thing, just chasing the next thing. And so there has to be a concerted effort to sit in the no and allow the no. Because sometimes we rush through no, and it's when we look back, we're like, oh, but that was an answered prayer. I prayed for that, but we miss it. And so I'm happy that you're at the place now. You're deliberately deciding, I need to slow down. I know you've said that to me so many times. Like, come sitting the moment, enjoy the moment. Because in my head, I'm always waiting for the next shoe to drop. I'm like, this can't be too this this is too good to last for a long time. And so I'm happy that you're in that place now. You said something else that I wanted to comment on, but because I'm getting old, I forgot. I forgot. I forgot. But oh, you mentioned something about, being in that dark space and sitting in it. When you find yourself in those spaces, like I know for me, sometimes I dig a hole so deep that sometimes I don't know how to come back and to find the light. When you're in those spaces, how do you dig yourself out? How do you come back to the light?
Well, that's a hard one. Am I even back in the light? I don't know. For me, I think one of the things I've been blessed with, for somebody who doesn't have a lot of friends, I know a lot of people and a lot of people tend to know me, but I have very small circles. And I feel as though every time I reach out to a friend, even if I don't say the specific thing, I had a conversation with Lance, y'all. Last week, Lansha, earlier this week, I don't remember. Maybe this week, I don't remember. And I've been going through what I've been going through, and she started reminding me of stuff that I would have posted, reminding me that, hey, yes, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Focus on one thing. And she was just speaking positivity over my life. So for me, one of my biggest blessings and one of the biggest testimonies and biggest flexes, my friends, the people I call my friend. Like even without knowing, I reach out to a friend, I reach out to an Ayana, and by the time we finish talking, like, listen, you feel like you could just fly. I call you,
Mm-hmm.
come, and we probably start out both of us in a very dark space, and we feel a little way, and maybe the conversation doesn't end in the light at that first time, but we probably send that text and the next day we talk, and before you know it, that kind of lifts your spirit and show you a different perspective, and you start feeling a little more hopeful. So I think it's important to surround yourself with good people and ask God to help you with the people you surround yourself with. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because and also know when to let go, because sometimes people are good for us for a season and we're good for them for a season, and it's no hard feeling when we're no longer serving each other, or me serving you is a disservice to me. It is okay. It is okay to part ways. It you don't have to just stick around. But I also interject here that even while one of my big flexes and how I talk about God can sound weird to some people and not others, maybe to those closer to me, because I have been going through my own journey
Yeah.
with God. Yeah. Yeah. And so I remember many years ago when people used to say, "Oh, I'm spiritual, not religious." I'm like, "Will you just get out of here?" But then I found myself in that space. But even when I question God, and too much questions for religion to even bring that up, that's a separate topic. I have never not trusted or believed in God. Like it's so wild to me to imagine that there is not a God, because I would have seen things happen in my life. Not even talk about people around me, because people can say, "Oh, it's God who came through." Men know who come through for you. I can only speak to me and
Mm-hmm.
for me and myself. And I have gone through a lot of things. Deliberately make poor decisions over and over and over, which should have done me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And still there is grace, much grace. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Prayed for stuff, even get things I never prayed for, things that are benefiting me, things I never hoped for, aspired for, and they've come in my path, because it's easy to say, yo, hard work. And I always say, cheer yourself on, give yourself a pat on the shoulder, because it doesn't matter what God creates. If you don't walk in that path, if you don't show up, if you don't do your part, sweetie, it's not yours. You're not getting.
Mm-hmm.
Because God cannot come and do the work for you. He can provide for you, yeah? He can bless you. You ask for a car, go and go get a license. Why would God give you a car and you can't drive? You know what I mean? So we have to be practical with God and get to know God for ourselves. And so even in this in these last couple of years of me finding out and figuring out self and God, it has been very eye-opening, and it has been very beautiful to realize that, hey, God is who he is in spite of what you think and what you believe, and he's gonna
Mm-hmm.
show up for you regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm gonna have tangent, because
No,
sometimes I do that.
no, that's okay. That's a natural flow of conversations. One of the things I want to ask you, like I was saying to you this morning, a couple weeks ago, I was fasting for 7 days, 7 days, and I was asking God for specific things. And those 7 days have long passed. I haven't heard a thing. And you mentioned, God showing up on you. What happens when God does not show up?
I think that is the thing. That question is so loaded, because it's the
Mm-hmm.
expectancy that he will show up the way you want him to. It doesn't
Mm,
mean that he hasn't. He has. He just has not shown up the way you want him to. He
Me
hasn't
no
given
hear
you the
nothing.
result. He hasn't given you the result. So you have to sometimes, Camelia, I think that we just want, it's just like me and weight loss. Lord Jesus. Been struggling. Me eat all the food them enough to eat the wrong hours, drop asleep late in the night, put on a lot of pounds, obese, heart in a problem, all sort of something and stress. But I know I never woke up one day and weighed what I weigh.
True.
It slowly happened. And I was talking to 10 UK. We're on a juice fast right now. I'm a dead feel hungry. You see, I'm drinking tea. I didn't even know that tea could be this sweet with just like a water on it. Jaja. Anywho, and she was saying, and I think you were part of that conversation yesterday about the
Yeah.
whole weight loss. And I'm like, to be honest with you, me want to get up because I'm like, me have faith bigger than mustard seed. Me supposed to can't just wake up, Marga. Why me can't just wake up, Marga? Eh? You a part C or whatever. Me can't wake up, Marga. You can do that for me. And so sometimes we miss out a lot because we don't want to wait. We want the response right now. And just like I was saying, the whole preparation, even if you're gonna get these things that you desire, there is preparation that is needed. You don't just get
Mhm.
up and your chicken stew. Chicken, first of all, you get the egg hatch, you feed the chicken reach 6 weeks, somebody kills the chicken, cut it up, season it up, you cook it, and then you can eat it. I think that we just want to sit at a table and eat, and we're not patient enough. And part of it is a good thing because we trust God and we believe God because you don't need a whole lot of time to do things. You are who you are, and you can just
Mhm.
snap a finger. But we are who we are, and sometimes we are not prepared for what we have asked for, and so we have to be prepared. And so he's just delaying it, and maybe not even delayed, because even if before you prayed, he's like, this is what I'm gifting you. And sometimes we don't know what's bad for us. It's almost like a baby, like a child. Caleb, my
Mhm.
godson, technically my son, um he's a baby, and even though he's a smart boy for his age, he's a toddler, he's like 4. He speaks like he's older than that, and he understands things, but he's still a baby. So sometimes when I tell Caleb no or not yet, or he's like, I want this to eat but I know it's not good for him right now, he cannot understand why I am seemingly withholding something good from him. He can't get it because he doesn't understand yet that, hey, something that you want even more, something that is even better for you, is coming. We order it already, it's on its way, but you're here right now, and you're like, but I cheese tricks no one, me
Mhm.
feed no cheese tricks nice. But you have to wait, you have to pause. So for me, that is what I suggest. And I always say, for people who is Bible believing Christian, you either are or you aren't. So
Mm.
you're either gonna believe it or you're not gonna believe it. So you ask God, you trust Him, and I know most times when people pray, they say, "Let Your will be done," and you have to understand that the moment you put that in, it means that Your will might dash away.
Yeah.
Because if you've asked for His will, it might not be be Your will, so it might dash away. So I think patience, and then even going back in your life, Camellia, your love said this thing, hitherto the Lord has brought us, something like that. And it's true. Like he's blessed you with things you never even prayed for.
Yeah.
Things that are awesome, things that are great. And I know a couple of years ago when me and struggle and I suffer, we couldn't even see some of these things.
That is true.
We couldn't see, but when we look back in our lives, and even the jobs that we're in now, whether or not you want it, the jobs that we're in right now, all the things that we went through that prepared us when we were going through those things, we never liked some of them either. We never felt
No.
like it was preparation for anything. I recall a lot of times telling people, I'm not building any resume, me not look no work, me not try to do whatever. But
Yeah.
something has been lined up for you in the future. And all these things are prerequisites, whether or not we want them or like them. And
That
so
is
it's best to just learn a lesson fast and go on through to see what we'll keep at the next end.
that is so true. Like I was having a conversation with my mom this morning, and we were talking about, I think it was Isaiah 30:22. I don't quote me, I'm probably wrong. The same passage that we did recently on I Promise a Day, where the Lord says, when the time is right, I the Lord will make it happen. And so that means that sometimes we have to wait. But I was also saying to her, sometimes God is a God of suddenlies. Remember the story when the disciples were on the sea and the storm came and God spoke and suddenly the storm ceased. And so when I pray now, I still want what I want because I'm like, is it that every because I feel like a lot of things that I get I didn't pray for. They are amazing things that I didn't pray. So is it that I need to just stop asking God for things and just allowing him to just do what it is that he wants to do? Or what's my other thought? What was I sorry, I lost my
I lost
thought.
my thought.
Or maybe
Or
you just want him to act suddenly. I don't know. Is that
like I don't think
Like, I
anything
don't
is
think
wrong with
anything is
him
wrong.
acting suddenly. Oh, but you were talking about preparation. I shared this on my Instagram this week, where we're reading Book of Judges and Judges 3:1 and 2, where it says, "And God allowed some of the enemy nations to remain among the children of the Israelites, for the sole purpose of teaching them warfare, because they were not familiar with battle." And for some reason, that resonated with my soul. And so now, having read that and processed it, I look at it like, maybe what's ahead I'm not prepared for. What's ahead I am not ready for. And so some of these thorns in my flesh, some of these obstacles, some of these things that I am facing now is to build that faith muscle that we spoke about earlier. So when the fight comes, I can fight. When the thing comes, I'm able to sit in it and appreciate it and understand that, hey, this is what God has had for me, and it's better than anything I could ask for. And I don't know, I'm probably going off tangent, but I was talking to my mother this morning and I was saying, sometimes while we wait, things are happening and we don't think that they have anything to do in the grander scheme of things. And so we're talking about my job, and she was saying that job is an amazing blessing. I'm like, you're so right. But I was just tracing back and I'm like, if I didn't save that job on LinkedIn, because when you go on LinkedIn, you see jobs and you save them. Sometimes you just scroll. If I didn't save the job on LinkedIn, I would not end up with this job, because it was the day that it was due that LinkedIn reminded me that, hey, today's the deadline, apply. Right? When I was saving it, I didn't know that it was part of anything. And so sometimes when God doesn't, this is me talking to myself, right? And I'm like, sometimes when God doesn't answer the way that we think he should answer, it's in these little things that he's responding. It's in these little things that he's setting us up for what's to come. So I appreciate what you just shared, Ruth, about, just sitting there and trusting that God is going to come through when he says that he's going to come through. I didn't leave a question there, but you can jump in now.
you see me face away for one question for answer?
I
You know
saw
what's
it.
interesting? I was actually helping Sahai, my older daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Someone want to run and borrow people picnic, take them for myself. Anyway, with her assignments, and she had religious education. And then, this can open another discussion, but we're not even going to go into
Mm-hmm.
that other part where my brain goes sometimes when we're
Mm-hmm.
discussing religion and whatnot. But it was a story of Isaac, from Abraham all the way down, and having Isaac and going up into the hill to 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 sacrifice. Thou shalt not murder, but please to murder thy son. And it's ridiculous. It seems crazy, but he went. And when he got there, and he's like, Jaja, really? This rough, because the kid is like, Dad, yeah, I don't mind hanging with you. We've built the altar, we have everything. I'm not clocking a ram. What's up?
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna look at your own son with a knife and be like, yo,
It's kind of
you're
you.
It's kinda you. Yeah, you're it. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of hard. But there was something provided. There was a lamb right there for him to actually sacrifice. And so it just goes to show that sometimes having faith, and people say blind faith, but faith cannot be anything but blind. If you
Mm-hmm.
can see, it is not faith. Yeah. And it's having that understanding that God will provide. I think that's what he called the hill after that, that God will provide.
I think
I
so.
think so.
What's his
Yeah.
name?
What's the
So
name?
even when you feel as though you're tested by God and you're asked to do things that don't seem godly, don't seem to make sense, if you have faith, and if you trust the process, and if you listen, because sometimes some of it too quick. Because
Mm-hmm.
him could have go up there and just fling the boy upon the thing long time. Stops. Done. But he took his time and he did what he was doing and he listened, and so he could hear the angel saying, "Hey, don't raise your hand towards your son. Let him be. I see now that your faith," and which is crazy to me as well too, because it also suggests that God is saying in the Bible that prove me now, test me, try me, but He's testing and proving and trying us. So the question is, you're going through these things and it seems hard enough. Like, is it that we only want a God that is gonna do nice things for us? Yeah.
Mm,
And
mm-hmm.
and when you think about it, because going back to the Bible, which I think everybody here believes in and read, um even when he talks about the story of the person who made it to heaven, he's like, "But I was hungry, you never fed me. I was homeless, you never offered me no shelter." All these things are happening. So it's like, how can you love me, God, whom you've never seen, because you're just believing that I exist, and you don't love these people, your brother and sister and your friends, who you can actually see with your own eyes, you can actually hear them, you can touch them, you can speak with them. How can you not love them and then say you love something or someone whom you've never seen? Yeah, and trust in
Mm-hmm.
them. So I think when we start thinking about relationships, think about the best relationship that you have with someone on earth, and then ascribe same to God and how you would make it work. Yeah, you and I have been friends for the ages. We go through some stuff, some
Yep.
rough stuff. Yep. When my behavior wasn't the behavior that was supposed to be behavioring, and same for you. Like, we go through our rough patches, but then we just throw up our hands in the air and say, "You're lucky, good fishy." We're there even when things aren't great.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, that is how we even prove the strength of our relationship and our bond. Not that we're go to we way if we make things rough and hard for each other, but even in those trying and rough times, certain values remain, certain
Mm-hmm.
respect remains, honesty remains, and so the friendship can be intact. So I think it's the same kind of thing with God. You trust him all when, cause enough time me see little things up, man, even when me check history and I'm like, but for real though, like, you really still not watch that? Like, I cannot clock it, and that's another discussion. You hear me? I'm
Mm-hmm.
hanging out with my niece in high school too, y'all.
Apparently.
Apparently. Too much. But it's good. These days I can understand what people are talking about. But the long and short of it, of what I'm saying, is that God is wonderful. God is great. Even though I am not religious in any means right now, I believe in God. I've never not believed in him. And it's clear that he's never not believed in me
Awesome.
either. Awesome.
As you
As
mentioned the
you
story
mentioned
of
the story
Abraham,
of
we're in a
Abraham, we're
meeting
in a
this week,
meeting this.
and that was the story of focus. And one of the things I was saying, well, one of the things I said was, because we're asked, what are some of the lessons that we could take from it? One of the things I said was keep showing up. Because you realize every time that God called Abraham, he said, "Here I am, here I am." So when God calls you, you should be found in his presence. So even though you don't understand it, even though it makes absolutely zero sense to you, keep showing up, keep going to God, keep talking with him. But another thing that I thought of when the story was read is that the fact that God asked Abraham to make the sacrifice of his son, and Abraham went, for me, it's almost like, Ruth, you and I, like, we've been friends for forever. There's some things I know that you would never do, right? And you wouldn't require me to do. But if one day you required me to do that thing, in my head, something is going to happen. You probably either need help, you're trying to prevent something from happening. And so there's this trust that Ruth is asking me to do something against what she knows. There must be a bigger plan at play. So for me, in my head, I'm like, Abraham must have known. He didn't know how it was going to work out. But the fact that God was asking him to make a human sacrifice, that which was not supposed to happen, there must have been something else at play. So let me just go ahead with it. And that takes relationship. He would have known God, right? He and God would have had this thing going. And so for me, my aim is to get to this place. I mean, I don't want to be where, like Joe, where he's like, "Have you tried my servant Cam?" I mean, but I want to get to this place where even when it makes absolutely zero sense to me, I'm able to fully trust that what is for me will find me. And no matter how much pray and fast I fast for something that is not for me, I won't get it. right? And what is mine will find me. And so I just have to trust God through the process and learn the lessons. Now we're coming up to our, we're almost 50 minutes in. So we're coming up to our tissue worthy moment. And the question for that is, hold on, I got it here. What part of your testimony still makes you emotional when you talk about it? So I know your testimony was, like a whole experience, but there any part of that testimony that when you think about it, it makes you emotional?
The specific testimony that I spoke about a while ago.
Well, you spoke
Well, you
about a
spoke about
broad,
a
did
broad.
you
I
make,
spoke
yeah,
about.
so,
I
so,
spoke about a lot of
yeah.
things. Yeah. Um.
Let's say your
Let's say
journey
your
with
journey
God.
with
Is there
God. Is
any
there any
particular part
particular
in that
part
that
in
you
that
think
you
about and
think
you're like,
about and you're like,
hmm,
several stops, several areas. And just quickly, because we're not tapping into the whole childhood and growing up poor and not even realize, say, yo, we were like, when people say, oh, they're on the poverty line and the poverty line is here, and you don't realize, but it felt like wealth because you were growing up with people who you loved and all of that. Even where I am right now, and I think sometimes, as I say, I'm learning to pause. I don't even think we pay attention to it. Like sometimes you don't play it. But even where I am now in life, don't have everything that I want, but I'm far from where I started. Like sometimes I find myself pause and I say, yo, God, you do something, You do something because there were no cards dealt to me that should land me here. There's absolutely no card that was there.
correct.
Your father not did there, your poor mother struggle. Your mother take care of you and your siblings, your cousins, whatever. There's no card. You can't afford to go to high school. You understand? You're on common in when I come well I did common in chance. You're on it's called path now. I can't remember what it was called. A food stamp, something else. You're
Food
on those
stamp.
food stuff. Stamp. Food stamp. You know what I mean? You're coming home for lunch, but you know no lunch no did it. Yeah? You're going to school and you have just a dead fear to go school. Yeah, so you find where God you opens up doors, and it's also, as I always say, how you prepare yourself to receive the gifts that God has for you. Because sometimes you want him to just give you one big old scholarship, like no, me say you can't move in lotto. But anyway, that's a different story. You you want him to give you a lump sum so everything is sorted, but he's building you as a person. I know that now. So when I pause and I reflect on those things, so you're working in the cafe at high school, and then you can see even people who need and you can give them to, and all of that, and you don't have no money for university, and you come and you stay with a family and you work on campus till you could have pay off your school fee and all of those things. And if we were to get into the granular details of it, you're meeting people, you show up at who you are, you try to be a better person, and so you connect with
Mhm.
other people. So even where I am now and the people I'm surrounded by, I should not have been here. Me's a girl not have no money, me not have no whatever. You never get all the support and encouragement. Like, yeah man, go on out the feet. Because you do have persons who love you and they're looking out for you, but they can only see as far as their faith and their trust is. And
Yeah.
so when yours is bigger, they can't fathom. And so when they discourage you, it's not because them bad mind and say so. They could never see themselves stepping out like that. So when you do, they're scared because they're seeing failure, they're seeing defeat. So when you step out and something actually works out, and even the proximity to people. I remember listening to even radio station. I want to meet all certain people. I'm on the station. People want to meet me. Me I said, Jaja, but this don't make no sense. So
Yup.
come like my whole life is a testimony, and not everybody would know it because I think everybody needs to know it,
Hmm.
but I know it, and close friends know it, and it my entire life, my entire journey is just it's just woven with God's grace and God's goodness and His mercy and His gifts to me. Yeah. I mean, there's another argument to say, why make me born poor? But that's different. We're gonna leave that over there. We are where we are. And I think throughout all of those things, I have grown as a person and I love the person I am. You know? And there are areas that I need to work on. But sometimes when I sit back and I look at who I am and how I care for people, until me not care, cause cross me and then baby, there's no care
Hmm.
there. But even how I want to show up for people, and when I'm confused about what it is I want to do in life, I always know that I want to speak over people's lives positively. And so when I talk to my friend them, when I talk to my staff at work or whatever, like it is not recognizing faults and errors and things and areas in me and them and everyone that needs to be changed and developed, but it's always like, but this are going and then, but you're amazing at this other thing. You're so
Mm-hmm.
trust yourself in this. I can see how you came through in this. And so I love that. And I believe that is my thing on earth. Like that is what God gave me. I don't know how to use it. And sometimes I'm like, but I think sometimes we want, I think I go off on tangent. But anyway,
No, that's okay.
sometimes I think the way we want life to go and how it is set up and the order it should flow is not the one that is good for us or will have the impact that it should have. Because sometimes we want to stand in front of thousands and say, "Oh yes, you are great" or whatever, but then we forget about our cousin and our niece and our friend who we talk to every day. And they're
Mm-hmm.
not feeling like that because we're not encouraging them. And I think there is, just like they say, the devil, but it's God in the details.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing in who we are and why we were placed on earth. The persons closest to you, when you talk to them, do they feel God? Do they feel loved? Do they feel understood? Do they feel as though you are not there to judge? Even if you judge a little bit, because all of us are people and we're like, girl, really though. You know what I mean? But you're
Mm-hmm.
still, after you say all of that, you're like, all right, so how we gonna fix it? How we gonna do this? How can I support you? And I think I
Mm-hmm.
feel supported by God. And so that's why I want to support other people. I feel supported. I feel like, how am I gonna speak over you? How am I gonna help you? Because I've been in those positions. And when people, when God sent people who showed up and encouraged me. And sometimes I swear to God that him talk to me and say, Ruth girl, I got you, you know. I've always, a lady over here chat foolishness, girl. Me love the same way. I've got
Mm-hmm.
you. And even though you're struggling and you don't want to do this, you complain and you whatever, I have never ever not loved you. I have never given up on you. And even when you feel like say me not show up, I me not gift you. Come like things. I mean, I gift you. I am. You know what I mean? I am. And so if anybody takes away anything, so yeah, so those are my tier worthy. When I look at my life, when I do this, because it's important to look in a review. When I do this, I'm look back, I see where I come, I see the pits where I could have dropped in. I see the many times I should have died. I see the many times I should have failed. I see how I know, we say, oh, we're enough. When me know me never enough. But God made it so. Honestly, like just sitting in quiet moments and me tear up because I'm like, I should not have been here. I'm grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad. I'm one God of places too. I believe you for that. But I'm just so, and that is why I can believe that me I got in place here. Because if you could have taken me from there, baby,
Yeah.
you're just
Same
awesome.
God.
Same God. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that so much. One of the things I took away from what you're saying, you mentioned, God put you here for a purpose and something. And then in my head, I'm like, there has to be this understanding that we're all purposed. And so God's plan is to lead us into that purpose. Sometimes we don't even understand what our purpose is, but we're praying and asking for these 1,000,001 thing. And God is like, no, child, you're derailing purpose with that. Let me give you this, which will lead you to that. So I think having an understanding of that, but also I saw this thing on, I think it was Instagram some time ago, where it was a pastor, he blindfolded this girl on stage, and he's like, if your boyfriend blindfolded you, would you be fearful? And she's like, no. And he's like, what would you feel? And she's like, excitement, because he's bringing me to something, some surprise. He's like, it's the same thing with God. When you're in that place, when you're sitting and waiting, when nothing is making sense, when you can't see ahead, get excited, because it means that God is prepared. He's bringing you into something good, right? And so in the waiting season and something, that's something that I remember. And even like your background, like Ruthie and I talk about it all the time. We share a similar story, similar but different story, right? Looking back at where God brought us from. No way should I be where I'm at. No way. You and I could not have prayed. We couldn't have envisioned it enough to pray for where we are now. And so, as you mentioned, if that God brought me here, even in the middle of the mess,
and the foolishness that I've done, and the prayer that I don't know what to pray for, and the things I hang on to, and all these things. That same God, it's the same God, it's the same God who's going to take us to the next place and to he doesn't want to harm us. I try to keep remind myself of that. Like God has no intent on harming us. And so go through the challenges, go through the waiting period, go through all of these things because this God is going to take care of you. And as you said, He's never stopped loving you. He's never stopped loving you. If there's one thing, you kind of alluded to it a while ago, you were going to go into it, but if there's one thing that you want us to take away from this conversation, what would that be? I mean, everything was good and I won't take a lot, but if one single thing, what would that thing be?
Whew. It's a lot in here. I don't know what to say. Okay, I'm echoing now. Why am I echoing? You mute now and see what happens.
I don't even know where the mic is.
It's to your right. Yeah. Okay. Great. I'm not even sure what to say. But if you take away anything from the conversation that we have had or we're having, it's to know that one, you can trust God, and two, you can learn to trust yourself because you have a role to play in God's bigger picture. Because you cannot show up and do the work for you. Yes. So if you've prayed for things, if you want things, if you believe for things, and I'll add here that even while we pray and we say, in if your will, I believe, if you believe what you believe and you read the Bible, about sometimes even giving you things that was not necessarily in His will before. There's this lady. They talk about this lady, the annoying lady in the Bible who kept going back to the court, and she go and she go until they say, all right. All right. Exactly. And when we think about sometimes, and I think sometimes we are heavy on how we chastise ourselves. Yeah. We're heavy on how we see ourselves and we feel as if maybe God shouldn't trust us anymore. So even though we said we're believing, we're kind of not too sure if we believe because we don't believe we're deserving of the things that He has in store for us. So believe that you're deserving because it's not even you making yourself deserving. It's something that was promised to you. So walk in that promise. And just to go back to the same study that I had with my niece, my borrowed daughter, the whole story was from Abram going all the way down, and it got to Jacob and Esau and all of what Jacob did. Oh, he deceived his brother with the help of his mother for the birthright and all of those things. And but this is the same person who was renamed Israel. He's the father of the nation. Like it came down through that. And it goes to show that we can repent, we can be sorry for anything that we do. And even if other people hold it against us, as long as God forgives us and we forgiven ourselves, like walk boldly with your head held high. Yeah? Jacob dreamt he saw angels coming down, up and down ladder, and him said, listen, God there is some man and him hold him. Mister, when the angel stepped in at the man hip and broke it out, he said, I will not let you go until you bless me. Yeah? And so sometimes you have soft faith where you're like, I'm just gonna chill back and trust and wait. And you have faith like, God, you said, I never make up this. You said you were gonna show up. And I trust your timing, but may I ask you if you show up today? Because today me need you. And I believe He will, and I believe He can. But trust yourself to grow through the process. Whatever you're going through, grow through it. Because if we don't grow, may I live the same life a couple of years. Well, no. And I know it's because I have not learned, I have not grown. So I cannot get that next thing. So grow through your stages. Trust God, trust yourself, and remember that God is a redeemer. He will redeem you. Forgive yourself and know that you're deserving of the blessings that God has in store for you.
If I never know better, I'm just take me there at church. If I didn't know any better, I'd think I'm in a church and Pastor Carr is preaching a word and they're about to bring the offering plate to collect the offering. That was so good, Ruth. And as we wrap up, something you mentioned about Jacob, and after everything that Jacob did, God still kept his promise. Sometimes we feel like we're derailed, we've messed up too bad, and so we're not deserving, as you say, of certain things. But God keeps his promise, which is one of the reasons I started a promise a day. Because I'm like, if I know the promise, I can pray them back to God because he cannot fail and he cannot go back on his word, right? And so it has been, as usual, every time I talk to you, I feel full. Right? Even if I come empty, sometimes I come and the cup is broken, but you find a way to lean the little piece and pour something in there. And I feel the same way about today. So thank you so much for your time, for your talent, for your gifts, for just pouring into all of us and Launcher and everyone else who joined. Some people came and they left, but I think Launcher has stuck it through. Thank you all for being here. I trust that you're buoyed up. I trust that you came, even if you came full, you're now overflowing. If you came empty, something is in your cup and it will help to keep you. Come back next week for another episode of Tissue Tea and Testimony. Next week's episode will be pre recorded. And so subscribe, comment, like, what else again? Share, right? Share. And I will see you back here next week. Bye, Ruth. I love you so much. Mwah.
I love you too. Maybe we should pause for a thumbnail unless you're gonna create another one.
Oh, yeah, but I have this thing. The thing, this, the speaker on the side.
Okay,
The
it's
options. You can
fine.
take it for me.
No, I'm not taking it. We are just gonna do this and then you can freeze the video afterwards so you get a
Okay.
nice thumbnail.
Bye, my love. Bye, everybody.